Ready.
I wish I could just hit leave meeting. No, I reject it. All right. So what our official thing was teaching skills and strategies, right?
Yes.
So we're group E, teaching skills and strategies for 21st century learners. And we mostly focused on different strategies that could be used with K through 12. So next slide, por favor. The basic overview that the kind of theme for ours is how we can use new technology, and new technology is going to be used in the classroom, but we're going to return a lot to old practices. So we're going to do a lot of things that people have always done, but we're going to use new technology to give choice, options, and adaptability. So in education, our currently adapted lecture-based learning format is focused on standardized ways of assessing students, but we want to teach them how to solve specific problems. And so we're going to need to adapt our learning at all levels using things like new projects and flexible classroom styles. We're going to use universal design principles to create engaging and successful learning environments.
So the implications for elementary classrooms just mean that there's going to be kind of a shift from teachers being seen as the gatekeepers of the knowledge, and where the students really are becoming the owners of what they're learning, how they're learning it, and being able to explore and research things that interest them based on the curriculum that their teachers are teaching them. So it's going to be very student-centered, very much creation from the students, and teachers and students are going to learn to collaborate with each other, and students will continue to collaborate with each other as well. So the skills that are going to be necessary for elementary school students are kind of broken into three groups. There are learning skills that incorporate the 4 C's, which I'm sure most people at this point in the game in education are pretty familiar with. So a focus on critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So much more than rote memorization of facts and information, and really being able to use the information in the world around them to learn and grow. Literacy skills have increased beyond just being able to read. There are many different platforms that students have to be able to read, and elementary school teachers really have to make sure that students are exposed to media, technology, and information in a variety of ways and places. And then beyond that, life skills become important even in the elementary school classroom. So learning how to be flexible, learning how to be a leader in a small group or within your classroom or within your school, finding ways to show your initiative and that you're productive. And it goes all the way into social and emotional skills and social skills for elementary students. So in order for teachers to be successful in getting elementary students to be able to do all of these things, there has to be a shift in some of the projects and some of the ways that students are showing their learning. So just like Ryan said, we're going to be using a lot of technology to help do this. There's going to be project-based learning where students kind of start with the curriculum and then continue to research pieces of that interest them. There's got to be a lot of differentiation and choice. Both teachers and students need to be flexible in the classroom to be able to think about things in different ways and then communicate with each other and support each other to foster relationships inside the classroom. So that is what that looks like at the elementary school level.
All right, so in middle school, I focused on the 4 C's as well. And just looking through it, one of the most simple things to start critical thinking is just asking, why, and having the students to start thinking about why. And then provide projects that really don't have right or wrong answers, but allows them to pick their topics, do their research, and use a variety of multimedia on the topic, and then allow them opportunities to give their point of view. They need collaboration, so usually they work very well in groups of 2. I have found more than two. Usually in middle school, you kind of have some that don't have a role. So you have to make sure they all have a role and that they're all working toward a project together, because that fosters collaboration. And if you don't, you kind of have somebody sitting back and not really participating. But pairs of students seem to work really well. And then communication, create procedures for speaking and listening. And one thing is to teach them to pause and to think about what the speaker is saying, and teach them to say, like, what do you mean, why, and how, and really have engaging conversations. And also when they disagree, to learn how to say, well, I feel, or I need, or I want. And that way they can give their point of view as well. They must be comfortable with movement and chatter. So a blended classroom, when you're talking about middle school skills that teachers need and strategies, I think it's really good to establish a set of norms with your students for peer discussions. You need to be able to reinforce those norms and to look back and kind of at the beginning of class, review the norms with the class. And then when you see them kind of getting off task, bring them back to the norms and focus back on the norms. I think that it's really important that, a lot of us use Google Classroom or some kind of online platform. So it's really important that as they're working through the process, that we're giving them feedback so that they can kind of adjust their learning as they go. Can't really wait till the end and say, oh, the final project, and then grade it against the rubric. But as we go along, grading it against the rubric and giving them feedback of how to improve. We need to be skilled at providing one-to-one conferencing with students, but also be able to facilitate a small group instruction, and plan the project-based learning, and also be able to lecture or have videos to kind of guide their learning as well and give them information. They have to be, teachers need to be knowledgeable of the topics and subject matter to coach and facilitate. So it means being kind of knowledgeable of a lot of different things that your students are interested in. And then you have to know how to use a variety of digital tools for students to access. And we have to be able to understand how to create digital units of instruction that actually foster communication and collaboration for a final project. So kind of a blended classroom. Digital citizenship in middle school is really important. One thing that I learned about most recently, I really hadn't done this before. My daughter attended a class at Chapel Hill, and she learned about the CRAP test. So I've been using that with my students, and it's just to check how credible a site is, what's the date, is it reliable, can the public edit it, is it accurate, does it give accurate information, kind of test it against the other knowledge that you have. It talks about things like .gov and .com and .edu, that those things are probably pretty reliable. So it gives students a chance to test, to research their own information, but at the same time to kind of check and see if that's a reliable source that they're having. Also, cyberbullying is really important to teach students what to do if they're being bullied online, how to keep their passwords safe, and on different digital media platforms, and knowing how to block others if they need to. And they have to be aware that they're making a digital footprint, and that stays there for a very long time, maybe even forever. So it can always be looked up. One thing I've really noticed in middle school is they need to be aware of copyright laws. They tend to think that it's okay to copy and paste everything online. So they need to learn to write that in their own words and paraphrase. And then one thing that I mentioned here is Common Sense Media. It has wonderful lessons about digital citizenship, and they're all there, and it provides the teachers with handouts, but not only handouts, but videos, and even focuses on the 4 C's as well. So those are really great lessons to do with your middle school students.
So, educators, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Educators at every level strive to prepare their students for the next level. Elementary school teachers are working to prepare their students for middle school. Middle school teachers are working to prepare their students for high school. And as a high school educator, we're working to prepare our students for what's next too. So we're tasked with, and we're constantly asking ourselves, when our students graduate, what would they need to be able to do, to know, or to be? And so just like my classmates have already stated, those 4 C's are going to be important, but the notion I like you to consider now is the fact that if our teachers are showing our kids those 4 things, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication, I'd like you to consider the fact that maybe teachers need to know how to do that too. And so that's what I'm going to discuss for these next few slides. The first one I have here is communicate. So I think teachers need to also communicate their ideas and resources with other educators. So I'm thinking along the lines of like presenting at a district level, or maybe even at like national conferences, right? Because if that's something that we want our kids to do, then teachers should be able to do that as well. And I say that because consequently, students' audience should be greater than just the classroom, right? Some of our other classrooms maybe should see that, but it should go further than the refrigerator at home, right? The next one is collaboration. So teachers should collaborate with other professionals, both within and outside of the classroom. So yes, we have PLCs that teachers attend, professional learning communities or professional learning teams, but what about Google Communities or Twitter, where we're able to share things that we are doing in each other's classrooms? So just having a greater expand or a greater reach and collaborating with others. So in return, our students are encouraged to work together, right? So they can work in classrooms, but now we have platforms like Google Docs where they can collaborate outside of the classroom. So we could link 2 classes together and they could be working on a project. We talked about project-based learning just a little bit ago, right? Next slide. The next one is creativity. So teachers need to be creative about how they infuse technology into their lessons and how they deliver their content. So that means choosing the right technology tools to use in their classrooms, but we talked a little earlier about choice, right? Students having choice to submit what they want to, the way they want to submit their products, right? So after they've gotten their direct instruction and they've been able to process the content, then they have a choice of how they submit it, offering choice and allowing students to be creative and express their knowledge the way they see fit. The last one is critical thinking. So teachers allowing students to look at problems a different way. So offering project-based solutions, problem-based solutions, or inquiry-based opportunities so that students are allowed to examine data, look for patterns, draw conclusions, and learn for themselves.
When it comes to thinking about how these strategies and skills that we're going to need in the future are going to affect all of us, it's really important to remember that there are kind of pros and cons that come with everything that we have to do. While we talk and we like to go on and on about the advantages of things like adaptability and growth and the importance of relationships in our classrooms, we have to acknowledge that it's actually a lot of work. This transition from teacher-centric learning to more progressive methods isn't just saying that we're going to commit to excellence and we're going to commit to being more flexible. You actually have to prepare projects. You have to have a variety of choices, and you have to have the people skills and the soft skills to recognize what it is your students need and recognize whether or not you are accurately assessing their abilities and presenting them with enough and sufficient assessment opportunities that they're able to actually communicate what they know and what they need and what deficiencies they may have. So on top of all the normal teaching skills that everybody needs to have and the mastery of the material that you need to have, adaptable classrooms require expert teachers to also have sufficient support and trust so that they can operate within this framework that could seem chaotic to somebody who is used to a entirely lecture-based classroom. And there's also the danger of saying that people are going to just use new things because new things are available without making sure that it's accurately assessing needs, or that it's directly tied to something that is giving value to our students as kind of apprentices of the knowledge. But when we do it right and we provide sufficient opportunities and sufficient ways for students to engage with material, we can meet all of our students where they are and engage with these universal design principles that encourage our students to want their own mastery instead of just have us deliver information to them. Next slide, please. So that's the conclusion, is that the big thing that we're going to look forward to as we grow through the next 100 years is thinking about student-focused teaching, but remembering that student-focused teaching requires academic excellence on the side of the teachers. It requires the teachers to be more flexible, be more knowledgeable, be able to meet their students and their needs, and collaborate with them to create a learning environment that is less teacher focused, but has more teacher anticipation of the way that the way their students want to learn. UDL has this principle that if you have something that somebody needs, it's more valuable for everybody. And so the more that we can think about providing access for everybody, the more value we're providing for all people. Cheers.